we look for a way out of the valley by following the bed of a glacier that scraped its way through here tens of thousands of years ago. Our procession of vehicles climbs a steep ridge on a path, which in places is only wide enough for a single vehicle to pass. A very steep drop on one side of the road means that our drivers must take great care and concentration as they inch their way forward. During the rainy season, the road between Mang Ngai and JIANG is completely closed off. The glacier bed we are presently following becomes for that period a raging river that no one can cross. The Altun Mountains appear massive and interlocked. Again and again, our vehicles climb steep inclines and the sides of cliffs, descend into rocky valleys, cross the courses of ancient glaciers, and yet cannot escape the spell of the Altuns. It is as if we have gone nowhere and have been following the same path for hours that will never end. We are on the edge of an enormous steppe. We look one way and have a parting view of the dizzying depth of the valley we have just left behind. Before us, to the north and west, is a vast lowland that stretches out beyond our sight. This is the famous Tarim Basin. This huge region is 560,000 square kilometers in area. It encompasses the Taklamakan Desert, the Desert of Death, which we will be crossing for several days to come. As we make our way down into the Tarim Basin, the road becomes rougher and the temperature almost instantly higher. Finally, we reach a paved road and see the green trees of an oasis. Many of us breathe a deep sigh of relief. Our road takes us into a rural village surrounded by greenery. We have arrived in JIANG, our destination for today. JIANG is the first settlement we have seen since entering Xinjiang. This place is an oasis in the middle of the desert, and its population is not that large. We notice a change in the facial features of the people. These are the Uyghurs, the original inhabitants of this land. They constitute the majority of Xinjiang's population of more than 7 million, and are scattered throughout this westernmost province of China. The main means of transportation in this region remains the donkey cart, just as in the past. The donkey, consequently, is like a pet that nearly every Uyghur household owns. These oases are so fertile as to make it seem incredible that such a hostile terrain could contain places where water is abundant and fruits and vegetables can be grown in profusion. Xinjiang is famous for its watermelons and cantaloupes, which grow well in sandy soil and are amazingly sweet. The next day, we continue on our way. Our destination this time is Chumu, 420 kilometers ahead. Our path lies across a desert, which we are told was once the home of a flourishing civilization, now buried beneath the sand. The Uyghurs call this landscape the Desert of Death. The Taklamagan stretches 1,000 kilometres from east to west and is approximately 400 kilometres wide. It is part of the Tarim Basin, which lies between the parallel lines of the Tiangshan Mountains in the north and the Kunlun Mountains in the south. Gripped as it is between the jaws of two towering mountain ranges and far from the moderating influence of the ocean, the Taklamagan is one of the world's driest wastelands. Surface temperatures here have been recorded as high as 67.2 degrees Celsius. The dry, merciless terrain and the freakiest cruelties of nature have convinced the Uyghurs that the Taklamagan is forbidden ground. They warn one another that once you go in, you never come out. The road ahead has been washed out by heavy torrents. We look for a way to cross below. Our guide tells us that the washouts, which happen frequently during the summer, are the result of snow on the Kunlun Mountains melting and rushing downhill. That vegetation is too sparse to repel this onslaught. The first passenger bus we have seen in 3 days passes us. We can't help wondering what they would do if their bus broke down. More than 8 hours later, we arrive at Chumu. The atmosphere of Uyghur culture becomes increasingly prominent. We are impressed to discover how friendly they can be to travellers like us. The unique features of Uyghur dress become more apparent, and the Chinese element starts to fade away. Language is a significant barrier to communication. The Uyghurs use a Turkic language and know nothing of English. However, we still try to be friendly with them. Here is a stall selling a bewildering variety of spices and condiments. We are reminded of the importance of trade on this ancient route. Despite our inability to communicate, we still find ways to refer to these creatures of the desert.
Long time play for men.
Chumu is a large new settlement, and the houses are neat and clean. The Chinese government has spent a lot on improving these roadside towns in order to promote tourism, which they expect will grow in the future. We are grateful for the chance to rest in a 4-star hotel after the travails of the previous 2 days. On the following morning, we set out for the town of Mingfei. The road deteriorates, and then it is our vehicle's turn to break down. On a road like this, breakdowns are common. It is important, therefore, to have all the necessary equipment. Even with 2 spares, we find that we are unprepared. After only 10 kilometers, we have to stop 3 times to change our tires, and so need the spare of one of the other vehicles in our caravan. These desert poplars are ancient trees that have managed to adapt to the severe conditions of drought and briny, alkaline soil. The desert poplar is able to eliminate salt and alkaline from its system, and this explains how poplars have grown so well in the Taklamakan Desert. Ancient cities that used to flourish in the Taklamakan over 1,000 years ago have been uncovered recently. Many of the desert poplars that were growing then are still alive today, prompting some to say that the desert poplar is immortal. Even if one does die, it remains standing, or if something makes it fall, even then it does not decay. We stopped to have the meal we had previously prepared at the ancient site of Andria, a town on the old Silk Road that now has only 2 or 3 houses. The Uyghurs are excellent hosts and try to exchange a few words, no matter where we are going. Our guide tells us that we must move on quickly, lest darkness fall before we get to Mingfei. A desert storm is brewing and could be quite difficult and dangerous for us if we are still on the road at night. The Taklamakan is plagued with sandstorms during 4 months of the year. At dusk, we arrive at the small town of Mingfei on the way to Hertian, just as a desert storm is starting up. The whole town is filled with dust. Mingfei gets hit more or less heavily with sandstorms on numerous occasions every year. The people here are so accustomed to them that they go about their business as if a storm is nothing more than a bit of fog in the evening. They say, in a joking manner, that if they had not done their sweeping, the town might not even be here. The fierce storms of the Taklamakan is no joke. It is said that an ancient kingdom known as Lolan was indeed buried by a sandstorm in a single night, and all lives in it lost. Only in the early years of the 20th century was it rediscovered. Subsequently, an incredible number of other lost civilizations from hundreds of years before were uncovered in a similar manner from beneath the sands of the Desert of Death. One of the most important finds in 1995 was at Cemetery Number 1. 8 graves of noble families were unearthed, and in them were numerous valuables. Among the most precious of these ancient objects were fabrics of brightly coloured silk and wool, beautifully designed. On the following day, we continue our journey to Hetian, approximately 300 kilometres away. The weather remains unpleasant, and we realise for the first time the immense power of a sandstorm. It moves like something alive, attacking whatever stands in its path without pity. While for the people of these parts, this is all part of ordinary life, we cannot begin to describe how desolate and awestruck this experience makes us feel. The desert storm shows no sign of abating. Driving is difficult in such conditions. Sometimes we can hardly see the road. We can only hope that the situation does not get any worse. Luck is on our side. The storm subsides after a while. We meet a man who is taking a camel to sell in Mingfei. He is probably walking into the storm, and the way is long. We give him some water for the remainder of his journey. The road across the desert is continually being damaged by storms. Road repair workers have a job that never ends. We notice that the region around us is rather different than the previous 3 days. More greenery is evident, and the number of people is increasing. Their forms, faces and costumes are signs that we are getting ever closer to the western border. The province of Xinjiang, or what the Chinese call the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Prefecture, has an area of 1.6 million square kilometres. This is China's largest province and occupies 1/6 of the entire country. Xinjiang is home to 13 different ethnic groups, scattered across its vast landscape. The Uyghurs are the largest of them, numbering over 7 million. The ancestors of the Uyghurs were nomads who inhabited the north of China around 300 BC. "90% of the Uyghurs live in the Tarim Basin, south of the Xinjiang Mountains and along the Silk Roads of the region." Late in the day, we arrive at Hetian. It is the largest town we have seen so far. Hetian was a centre of the Buddhist faith in the early years of Western Chinese history. Marco Polo also mentioned the town in the account of his travels as one of the most prosperous he saw. Hetian is located in a fertile oasis, blessed with a variety of fruits. Grapes are plentifully planted here. Every family has its own vineyard. If all the vines of Hetian were laid end to end, it is said they would stretch out for up to 750 kilometres. Moreover, Hetian has long been known for its cultivation of silkworms and the spinning of silk. The most famous type of silk is called altala. Its shades and patterns make a striking statement. It was this that made Hetian an important commercial centre on the old Silk Road, until Hetian silk became a household word. The town was famous for 3 things: silk, jade and carpets. Hetian has long been renowned for its carpets. The carpets of Xinjiang travelled along the Silk Road into central China on the one hand, and across the western frontier into Central Asia and as far as the Mediterranean Sea. The unique style of weaving found here is the fruit of more than 2,000 years of intercourse between Eastern and Western cultures. Carpets still fulfill this function of bringing these two cultures together. The people of Hertian have turned to this handicraft in an impressive, distinctive way.